This just in, the lawyer for Professor Christine Blasey Ford confirms in a letter obtained by NBC News to the Senate Judiciary Committee that, quote, a hearing on Monday is not possible. She adds that Professor Ford wishes to testify and would be prepared to testify next week, but that she has conditions for that testimony. Now, if and when Professor Ford does testify, she will face intense and direct questions about her personal life and what she remembers 3 decades after the alleged assault by Brett Kavanaugh. And while the situations with Professor Ford are not the same as those that face Professor Anita Hill, it's hard not to look back to what Anita Hill faced during her testimony in 1991 and what it might mean for Blasey Ford come Monday.
In trying to determine whether you are telling falsehoods or not, I've got to determine what your motivation might be. Are you a scorned woman?
Wow. For more on how Monday's hearing could go, I'm joined by Doug Wigdor. He's a former prosecutor who now represents sexual assault victims, including several high-profile cases. He's a founding partner at Wigdor LLP. Obviously, one doesn't have to dig too deep into the 1991 hearings to figure out how this shouldn't go in front of the Senate if Dr. Blasey Ford does testify. But you don't think the senators want this to happen?
Well, I don't think that Judge Kavanaugh wants this to happen. I mean, I've been saying since early on this week that Judge Kavanaugh was hoping that Dr. Ford would not show up for the hearing. So I was a little surprised when we started to hear that she wasn't going to. This is a good thing, I think, for Dr. Ford, her lawyers, and she made the right decision to appear next week at some point. And I think it's also smart that they negotiate conditions and terms for the hearing that will be fair, to make sure that the process is fair for her and that we don't have a repeat of the Anita Hill hearings.
Her lawyer, Deborah Katz, has written in a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Dr. Ford has asked me to let you know that she appreciates the various options that you have suggested. It's not a long letter. It doesn't seem overly confrontational. It seems to depend a lot on her safety and security. But one of the things you would recommend if you were representing Dr. Blasey Ford is that her lawyer gets to sit next to her.
Absolutely. There needs to be a chair next to her with her lawyer present. And we saw the clip just before. Inappropriate questions need to be objected to. That needs to be negotiated with the Senate prior to the hearing, so that way you can speak up, you'll be recognized at the hearing. I remember the Iran-Contra hearings, Oliver North. We had Brendan Sullivan's very famous words when he said, "I'm not a potted plant." He was there to defend him. And whoever her lawyer is at that hearing needs to make sure that she's not asked embarrassing questions about prior sexual activity that she may have had with other people, other irrelevant questions that are meant to embarrass her.
And a lawyer would know, her lawyer would know that that's unfair. That's a highly politicized question, or that's just meant to, you know, affect her credibility.
Absolutely. And in terms of her safety, I mean, I think what her lawyer is getting at there is not the safety for her to get to and from the Senate hearing. What they're talking about is more of a long-term sort of safety issue. Having either the FBI or marshals make sure that for the next month or 2 or 3 that she's protected, and that the people who are out there making these death threats don't interfere.
Whatever happens, she's not on trial. The Senate's not a jury, and this isn't a trial.
That's right. And there's no real burden of proof here other than to convince the Senate that they shouldn't confirm this appointment. It's not a trial, but they should call witnesses other than Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh. I mean, those are going to be 2 obviously very important witnesses, but there are many other witnesses, including this other person, Mr. Judge, and other people.
Who said he's not going to testify.
But they can subpoena him. Yeah, of course. They can subpoena him. They could subpoena others. We need to hear from other people who either corroborate the claims or not. Now, I said earlier this week that I didn't think there was going to be a hearing. I never thought it was going to be because Dr. Ford wasn't going to testify. I thought she would. And I thought it was Judge Kavanaugh who ultimately wouldn't do the hearing. I still stand by that. I think now that she's going to be here next week to testify, that I don't think that Judge Kavanaugh is going to go through it.
Interesting. We know he's been at the White House. They've been doing some debate prep.
I'm sure they have, but when you look at his yearbook and you look at the things he's put in that yearbook, there is so much material for cross-examination on that that I think he's going to be hard-pressed to go before a committee under oath and answer some very tough questions about what's in that.
All right, Doug, thanks for helping us through this. Doug Wigdor, former prosecutor and founding partner at Wigdor LLP.